Just in the Ray Show. It's just in the Ray Show. Just in the Ray Show.
Welcome to the Justin and Wade Show. I'm Justin. This is Wade, and we got a good friend of ours, Ray, on the show today. Ray is co-founder, I believe, of 15-Year Comics with Wade. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
good to be here.
Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it. And what would you like to talk about today?
So I would like to talk about Aphantasia, a relatively newly discovered, newly recognized. I guess it's not really a disorder so much as a condition, cognitive condition. So you guys let me know how you want to.
Let the three listeners know what aphantasia is.
All right. So aphantasia is a inability to form mental images, to imagine things, basically. So, you know, the standard trope is close your eyes and picture a beach. And then I would ask you, you know, what color is the sand? What do you hear? Someone with aphantasia, like myself, wouldn't see anything. So that's the easiest way to basically diagnose at least whether you're on the spectrum for aphantasia or not. And it includes the definition, generally, if you look it up, it talks about imagery, but it also includes smells, you know, sounds, any of those things, hallucinations.
Yeah, because when you close your eyes and you picture something, you sometimes feel what the image is and smell the image, kind of a deal. So you don't have that as well.
And so, like the standard, you know, movie lines talking about, or books where you get home and you smell, or you go someplace and you smell something that smells like home and brings you back to whatever. That doesn't really.
Which is wild. I mean, on the art side specifically, I was talking to somebody about this recently. As long as you and I, for like 20 years, well, 15 years on and off, but even longer than that, from when we were kids, like we've worked on art together, like talking about stuff, and then the other one drew it or whatever. And somehow still in that communication, we never figured out that, like, because I can make whole movies in my head, you know what I mean? Everything. Like,
and it took me a while. It took me, and that was sort of the kicker, and why it was so, you know, near devastating, was it took me 40 years. You know, plenty of people still don't know. You know,
I
remember when lived and died not knowing that, you know, 97% of the population could do a ton of stuff that they just couldn't do. So, and it's different between, you know, not having the ability and not having the capacity. Like, it's just like,
and you basically got to the level you did art-wise, the things you draw, because you would draw like an arm over and over and over until you can just draw it. I mean, it literally is muscle memory.
It happened to work out, and you know, if you look back through my artwork, it's a lot of people and figures, not a lot of buildings, because one thing that helped me was I was studying anatomy in school. So I learned a lot of the parts before, you know, I knew how to draw them accurately. And so it was easier to build from pieces than it was to sort of look at the entire form. Like, I had to learn how to look at an entire form and analyze it for what it was. So it's interesting.
And then you moved on and kept like I remember fashion magazines. You just had stacks of like
I still have stacks of fashion magazines, thousands of reference pictures from like Pinterest. And it's just, that was basically what I was using to recreate or imitate a functional, you know, mind's eye, you know, where I could just find an interest, but it requires categorizing, organizing everything so that I could quickly search for, and that's not really my forte.
So when you draw one of your characters that you like, let's say you're drawing,
I never know what our characters look like.
So do you look at another image of it already?
What's up?
Do you have an image beside you, like, okay, that's the guy?
Yeah, so a lot of times I'll have to look, just like any other character, I'll have to look up on, you know, we have on Google Drive all their profiles and stuff.
We have enough stuff at this point that we've, you know what I mean, got drawings, at least one of almost every one of our characters. So we really have our own reference library. But if not, it'll be like randomly send me a message and be like, hey, can you tell me what so-and-so, you know what I mean? Can you draw up a quick sketch of what somebody looks like, or their mask looks like, or something like that?
And for our main characters, it's nice now because I can just jump online and search for characters and find find art by David, Boris, and Joe, and me, I guess. So, but yeah, it's interesting because it not just, and you think the artwork was the most obvious thing, but then I started to think about, there is a endless list of things that you guys can do that I just don't have the capacity to do, like adding numbers in your head. Even Katie, she doesn't have a really strong imagery, but she can add numbers and see them, like she's writing them on the chalkboard. I can't do that, so I'm just sort of trying to keep track. So once I get, if I'm adding 4, 5 multiple digit numbers or doing, complex division in my head, it takes a long time because I don't have a picture of it. I'm just sort of trying to remember what was what, and then I have to go back and do it again. And then, the main thing is I'm trying to learn more, because if you think about kids, like as a kid, like I didn't realize that I know plenty of people and have taught plenty of kids that can read a page, study it for a while, and could bring up the entire page in their, in their mind. They could see the page on the book and just pull information from it. So everyone is taught with the understanding that you have this very basic, human capacity to
visualize it.
Yeah. And even
I was listening to an actor talk about this, and actors talk about different ways. Funny that you said about the page and book. It was it might have been Will Arnett saying like he can see the whole page. Once he reads it, he can see it in his head. I don't know if that's who it was, but I feel like that's the conversation I was listening to. And then some people, have to like have their notes with them and like look down every few minutes or whatever. So it was cool because I never heard somebody like that. Like I do have a good imagination, but like when I eat something, I don't like see the page in my head afterwards. You know what I mean? I don't visualize it like that. It's like I just absorb the information that's there.
And the reason
and I feel like
the reason I'm more interested in movies and animation than in the book side of things is because I also don't read, because when I read a book, it's just words put together. There's no like fantasizing or imagining what's going on. I'm just reading a description of a place or a thing that's happening without having I'm not getting into the story. I'm not flying on dragons or anything. I'm just sort of sitting there reading a book about people.
Just reading the context.
It's fun, I do it here and there, but it's not the same experience.
Yeah. Wow.
But there are benefits.
What's that?
There are benefits, so it's tough. I would take the benefits. I would take the costs.
You said about 3% of the population?
Yeah, it's 2 to 3%.
That's crazy. And there's not much research on it though, right? Or they're starting to be?
They're starting to be, but I mean, it didn't have a name until, within the past decade. And I saw it on TV for the first time a couple years ago, maybe a few years ago on Space Force on Netflix. One of the characters had it. And then I saw it once on Jeopardy. It was like a question. So it's starting to become out there, but it's weird.
So the easiest way to test for it, I know this is like we normally have like a light and joking conversation, but the easiest way to test for it is just to have somebody close their eyes and picture a memory.
And there's tests online that show the degree of,
because there's different. I'm glad you're getting into this. Go ahead.
Picture anything, like or even look at a picture or something, like a picture of white silhouette or whatever. And just picture it, and then ask yourself how much detail. Like, is it a real? Like if I said, imagine a small white rabbit, small white bunny. Some people will actually be able to picture a bunny that's moving and twitching its nose, and be able to put weird outfits on it. And it's interesting because it's externally humbling. Like it made me feel like I hate that I can't do stuff, but also I think about the fact that everybody that I was amazed by their abilities, like these artists, Jim Lee, whoever, their ability to form imagery after this many years involves them just tracing lines on a page. Like that's why they can go into a convention and draw a sketch, because someone can say something, they can blink their eyes and look at a page and be like, oh, this is what I want to do, and just trace it on the page. That's what I'm having to learn, when I relearn art, is to focus on, the things that I'm not trying to do. because my brain knows it. My brain's storing all this information, just to
Right.
not let me get to it.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, actually, that was a pretty good episode. We